This is Mike Madrid, and you're listening to Red County, Blue County, Orange County, produced by UC Irvine School of Social Ecology. It's a place in the imagination as much as it's a place on the map. It's where John Wayne, the Beach Boys, and the Real Housewives captured the cultural imagination of America at specific moments in time. But nowhere is the future political landscape of the country more evident than in Orange County, California. In many ways, it's the perfect petri dish of social change, historical legacy, economic transformation, and cultural tension to provide insight on what the emerging American political system will look like in just a few short years. Orange County underwent 3 significant transformations a generation ago that ushered in a new era of politics for nearly every group in the county. Republicans and Democrats, whites, Latinos, Asians, all races. White collar, blue collar, chambers of commerce, and labor unions. Today's Orange County represents the intersection of race, class, education, and partisanship in a unique way that is redefining how the political parties engage voters, as well as our conceptions of racial and identity politics in America. Geographically, Orange County sits just south of Los Angeles, but the county line between LA and the OC might as well be a border between 2 versions of reality. Once known as the bastion of the John Birch Society, the heart of the Reagan Revolution, and home to conservative firebrands like Congressman B1 Bob Dornan, is now a consistently purple county. I'm headed to UC Irvine. Once a sleepy campus surrounded by dirt roads and citrus trees, UCI is now one of the top research institutions in the country and sits right in the heart of Orange County. The UC Irvine School of Social Ecology recently launched a survey called the UCI OC Poll, which shows, among other things, that Orange County is one of the largest purple counties in the nation. During this podcast, we want to look at how we got here and what the ramifications are for the rest of the country and for the future. Is Orange County truly a microcosm of the country as a whole? Can we learn and better understand the future by dissecting the historical politics of Orange County? My first stop is at the Social and Behavioral Sciences Gateway building on the sprawling UC Irvine campus. The weather is perfect, the students are energetic, and I can smell the ocean in the cool morning air. I'm meeting with John Gould, the Dean of the School of Social Ecology, where this podcast is housed. The UC Irvine School of Social Ecology houses 3 departments: psychological science, criminology, law and society, and urban planning and public policy. And it also runs the UCI-OC poll, so John really has his finger on the pulse of this purple county. I sat down with John to hear about the current state of the OC.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here in Orange County. So let's start first of all with the school. So depending on how you measure us, we've either been around since the 1970s or the 1990s. Started as a program, became a school. We go back to this period where academics were trying to be involved with the community. They were trying to be translational. They were trying to be interdisciplinary. The way to understand us is we're a bunch of academics who don't just study social problems, we try to solve them. And we try to solve them in collaboration with the community. And that can be local groups, it can be statewide. We have a reach that goes internationally. But what all of us are interested in is ensuring that our research does more than just sit on that shelf behind you, that our research goes into the hands of policymakers and practitioners that can put it into use, and that we're in communication with them so that the work we're doing is informed by what they need, by the reality on the ground. So I think the word we all like to think that we're trying to be here is relevant and of service. We are, after all, a public institution in the state of California, and that's very much part of our mission.
Is that unique? That idea of taking the practical academic research and applying it to the, I don't want to say the real world, but the real world?
So in some ways, very much so. We are the only school of social ecology in the country.
Okay.
And within academe, sometimes there's the sense that if you are in conversation with policymakers and practitioners, you're being led by what they want you to do, that you're not thinking about what the world needs. You're not thinking about theory. We say that you can do both, that you can be doing really good theoretically informed research, and that research can help make a difference. It's not unusual in certain other fields. So for example, if someone's a cancer researcher, we expect that the research they're doing is going to be relevant to the world around them. We don't expect that they're going to figure out how a cancer cell divides and then say, oh, you know what? That's a great theory. We're going to sit back here and hold it only for ourselves. We expect that they're going to use that to come up with new treatments, new medicines that will try to help people beat cancer. When we get over to the social sciences side of the world, the part where it's real people involved in interactions with one another, that's a little bit more unusual. And so we think that we are doing something that is both unique and very important, because we are Orange County's research university, and we are the school here at UCI that is really trying to help tackle the big, thorny, difficult societal problems that face so many of us.
That's the perfect segue. I think you knew that. To talk about how this vision for this school and the research that you're doing and the classroom work that you're doing meets, it's the rubber on the road in Orange County. Tell us about what's happening in Orange County and why the opportunity of melding research and academic work with real life applications is uniquely positioned at this place in the world.
So I'm not sure it would have been 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
You and I are, actually one of us is a little older than the other. I'll take the honor for that one. But I think both of us are old enough to remember an Orange County that was completely red. Yeah. This was the home of the John Birch Society. Orange County is now a truly purple county. In fact, the line we like to say is that orange is the new purple. But it's not just a joke. So if you look at the 25 most populous counties in America, only 3 of them are truly purple. They are us, Maricopa County, Arizona, that is Phoenix, and Tarrant County, Texas, that's Fort Worth. Well, of those 3, only one of those counties has had 2 television shows and 1 bad movie done about it. That's us. But what's happening here is relevant to what's happening around the country. As the country becomes more and more polarized, we have only blue communities. We have only red communities. Republicans and Democrats don't talk to one another. In Orange County, we do. And we do if for no other reason that the county has to operate. And so people can collaborate across businesses, across nonprofits. They do at schools, and they do to run the county. So we think that Orange County is an excellent laboratory to figure out what's happening here as it relates to what the future of America can be. And it's a great place to be an incubator for testing new ideas, new interventions, new policies that may help us find ways to talk across one another. So one of the things that we have done is we restarted a poll that used to be here in the county in the 1980s. We had a faculty member by the name of Mark Baldessari who ran a poll in the county. It became the LA Times poll, and then Mark ups and becomes the inaugural CEO of the Public Policy Institute of California. The poll goes there and becomes the California poll. It's an excellent poll. But since that time, the county hasn't had a regular poll that goes deep and broad across the county to figure out what people think about really pressing issues. Not only to figure out what people think about it, but how salient is the issue, how does it affect their lives, what solutions have they thought about, what messaging might move them particular ways, and then where are the no-go areas. And we see that as an opportunity to not just tell people what's happening, but use it as an opportunity to bring together policymakers, practitioners, elected officials, community members, to then figure out, given what we now know, what can we do about it? So that's the incubation piece. We also have an opportunity to tell the story of what's happening here in Orange County for the rest of the country. You and I, again, remember Macomb County, Michigan, as being the county about what was happening in America that was different at the time of Reagan. That's where the Reagan Democrats came about. Well, I think we're seeing a number of things here in Orange County and how people are shifting, who's wavering, who's aligned with whom, that portends a lot about the future of America.
Talk to us about some of those shifts. What are you seeing?
So there are several things that we're seeing. Let's start with what I will call the good news.
Yeah.
So the good news is that even though there are tremendous differences in how people see the world, see the country, people on the left and right still actually interact with one another. One of the things that we're seeing is only about 35% or so of people in Orange County say most of their friends share their same political views.
Only a third.
Yeah, I mean maybe a third to 40%, but
Okay.
but that's well under a majority of
Right.
people who say most of their friends share their views. That's a whole lot of us who are finding some way to have friendships with people across various divides, political divides, and only 12% of people say they actually don't know what their friends' political views are. So they know their friends have various views, and they're able to be friends with them. Moreover, less than 1 in 5 people has ended a friendship because of politics. So even in this time where we say, oh my God, the divides are so great, at least here in this purple county, with very strong Republicans and very strong Democrats, people are still finding ways to connect with one another. So that's the good news. Then in the not so good news, we're seeing that about a quarter or so, up to even in some areas a third of residents, still doubt the veracity of the 2020 election. Now we're 4 years out, and they are still harboring doubts about the election. That, I think, in some ways is about elections, in some ways about politics, and in some way, unfortunately, about trust in institutions as a whole. That is worrisome. But then we're also seeing differences in educational groups and ethnic groups. So I would say the number one divide that we are seeing right now in this county, and I think it mirrors some trends that we're seeing, is the education divide. College education seems to be the big dividing line. Whether you're white or non-white, college education is a big dividing line. And that is significant for who's voting for whom. It is significant for who's likely to turn out. And it's also significant for who are the groups that are truly in play for this election. Where should the GOTV get out the vote effort be? So I think that's big. The other thing that we're seeing from the most recent poll is there's a difference in choice for president from the general public to registered voters and likely voters. So in our most recent poll, we're showing that if you look at the county as a whole, people 18 or older, Trump has a 1-point lead. However, if you move to registered voters and then to people who say they plan to vote, Biden's got an 8-point lead. That's well outside our margin of error. And so there's this tremendous irony here. You have Donald Trump, who has been sowing doubts about the election, telling people things have been rigged, who, if he could get those unregistered people to register and vote, would be doing a whole lot better in this county right now than he is among those who are likely to vote. Now, long time before Election Day, but that is a significant distinction that we're seeing right there.
And again, that's reflective of the country as a whole. So what you're finding here is sort of this perfect laboratory of the intersection of race, education, economic class, and partisanship.
Oh, yeah, and it goes against so much of what we thought we knew before, because we all thought that you tell me what my lunch bucket issue is,
right,
and I'll tell you which way I'm going to, or you'll tell me which way I'm going to vote. And it's as much about class and culture these days. Now, I think there's some debate among political scientists about whether people have always voted their economic interest versus their class issue. This is that book, What's the Matter with Kansas?
Right.
But we also know that economic issues were a large driver. And economics is still very important. But what we're seeing in the most recent poll is everyone is telling us they care about the economy. What's dividing people isn't the economic issues. What's dividing people is their cultural issue, what tribe they think they're in. And the dividing line more and more seems to be education, potentially less race and ethnicity than what we've seen in the past.
Which is what I find particularly fascinating about this entire project, is I think what you're doing here is challenging some of the traditional notions that have held true for many decades. This is the way non-white people vote. This is the way working class voters vote. This is the way college-educated voters vote. This is the way Republicans and Democrats vote. You're finding kind of a mix of all of those things happening for a variety of different reasons. And you also have the opportunity to kind of do a little bit of almost regression analysis to identify these unique pockets, study each of them, and that tells us what is prioritizing people's political choices.
Exactly. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to do some focus groups with these different groups to be able to even get more meat on the bones, greater detail. But yeah, if you look at college-educated voters, non-whites and whites seem to be looking at a number of issues very similarly. When you get down to the non-college educated, there are still slightly bigger differences between whites and non-whites. But boy, the big distinction is on education. And I think that says a lot about how we identify, well, first of all, how we self-identify, who we think we are.
Right.
And then group identification, who we think we have more in common with. And wow, does it change get out the vote strategies. Because we've known for years that the college educated are more likely to vote than the non-college educated. And this has been why for years Democrats have always wanted large turnout elections.
Right.
Because large turnout elections typically bring more people who aren't college educated, and they have traditionally been also lower income, and they would have been more democratic. Well, what happens when the college educated are more democratically leaning, and they're going to go vote? If you're a Republican, all of a sudden you have to go after a different class or different group of people to come out and vote. And if you're a Democrat, your messaging also has to be a little bit different to get at those non-college educated voters.
And when there's race correlations and ethnic correlations, again, it's not as simple as you're saying with just college or non-college educated. You have to add those racial and ethnic characteristics, different Asian ethnicities, different Latino ethnicities, with or without college degrees.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And it's just this unique place in America at the moment, but we are keenly aware that this is what it is all moving towards.
And to kind of tie into what I know your book is about, we've always known, well, I don't know that we've always known, but smart political people have recognized that there are differences within the Latino community based on how long families have been here and what countries they've come from. But now we're seeing that it's, in addition to all of that, it's whether you're college educated or not. Yeah. That college educated Mexican Americans have as much in common with college educated whites or college educated, I'm not going to necessarily say Cubans because they're a special category, right, but college educated Spaniards as opposed to the non-college educated Mexican Americans. So what a fascinating time to be interested in politics.
I think, and this is the perfect place to be studying it. How have the academics in the school reacted to some of these research findings?
I think people are excited to see what's going on here. We talk about Orange County exceptionalism as the sense that there's something going on here that other people ought to be paying attention to. And I think my colleagues are really excited to see some of these results from Orange County confirming what many of them who've lived here for years have known, which is there have been changes going on here that really portend what the future of America could be. And it's kind of us saying to the rest of the nation, hey, folks, you want to know what the next 10 to 20 years might look like in American politics? We got it going on right now. This is where you ought to kind of dial into.
What other messages would you, what am I missing? What would you like to tell people who might be watching this that need to know something more about either Orange County or this school?
So I think there's a tendency sometimes when people think about politics in California to say, why should I be paying attention to it? It's a blue state, everything's going to be decided before the polls close. It's just a question of what the margins are. Will Adam Schiff win big over Steve Garvey, or will he win small? That may be true about the state, but I think there are two things going on. Number one, wow, that wasn't true about the state even a couple decades ago, even less than a couple decades ago. Right. Understanding what's happened in California is important for understanding changes that are going on in other states. For example, Georgia might be one where you want to pay attention to what we've been through to understand what's going on there. But on top of that, we have 4 competitive congressional districts right here in Orange County. Those races are close. And we're doing this interview. What's the margin in the U.S. House is 2 and about to be 1 this coming weekend?
Right. Yes.
Flip any number of those congressional seats, and California has just flipped the House of Representatives. Or flip the Katie Porter seat for Republicans. They've just increased their margin slightly. So I think there's a lot about here that's worth paying attention to. I would also say people may want to pay attention to our vote by mail system. We take way too long to count those votes, any of us who have waited for results. But there seems to be out here a greater understanding that that is a system that one can use, and it still gives reliable results. And for both parties that are trying to improve turnout, that's a way that's been shown to improve voter participation. So you asked me what's different about the School of Social Ecology, and I mentioned how we're engaged with the community, and we really see ourselves as being problem solvers. But there's one other thing that's also different here, and people aren't used to seeing this in a University of California campus. So if we look at the student body in my school, 1/2 of them are first-generation college attendees. 2/3 of them are non-white.
Wow.
50% of them are Latino, Latina, and 50% of them are Pell eligible, which means that they are working poor. Now, this is at a school that has a 20% acceptance rate. We are not only the California of tomorrow, we're the California of today right here. And lots of places like to say that they believe in inclusive excellence. The School of Social Ecology and UCI in general really reflect that norm. We live that value. So when people say, why should I be paying attention to Orange County? Why should I be paying attention to the School of Social Ecology? Because we've been able to diversify this place and have really high standards while doing it. And we're bumping up against the 1-year anniversary of the Supreme Court ending affirmative action across the country. This is a school, this is a university that is able to have high standards and also reflect the diversity of California. And so I think we also have something to offer the country and the state in understanding those kinds of questions. So I think we get to credit you for the title, Red County, Blue County, Orange County. That's just wonderful. And everywhere I go, people love it because they know they're Dr. Seuss. So what are we doing and why are we doing it? So let's start with the why we're doing it. We've talked about the fact that Orange County is this unique place of tremendous diversity, tremendous political diversity, tremendous racial and ethnic diversity, in a place where people are still able to get along, and in an election year. So we want to help folks understand how Orange County went from this place 30 years ago that was so much on one side of the aisle to this place now where it is so diverse. And it is a place where the left and right have to blend to create purple to make this place work. So what are we trying to do this year? We're trying to do several things. So first of all, this podcast and the video casts that will come from this, with you helping to bring this all together, and we're deeply appreciative of the fact that you've given your time to this as well. So that matters a lot. We think the stories that you're going to bring forth from people that will help lots of folks understand this journey that the county has gone through. First of all, it's great history, but even if history doesn't excite you, it tells us so much about where America was and where America's going. So I think we have that important story to tell and lessons for people who care about where the country is headed. So that's one. Number two, we have the poll that we've been doing and that we're going to continue to do that is going to help folks understand what's happening here. Because again, we think this is a canary in the coal mine for what's going on in the rest of the country, and also lessons and opportunities for what can be done. On top of all that, we're hoping to bring some political reporters to campus this summer and this fall to introduce them to Orange County and what's happening here. I lived on the East Coast for more than 2 decades, and I am well aware that for some of my former compatriots there, the world ends going west at either the Hudson River or the Potomac River. Right. And I've lived in California before. I recall that life actually begins once you cross the Colorado River and come into California. But we want to bring people out here to help them understand what's happening here, because this is really where the action is. And if you don't understand what's happening here, you are not equipped to tell the story of America right now. And if you're trying to figure out what's going to happen in the House of Representatives come January of 2025, if you aren't paying attention to what's happening here, you don't know what's going on. So really, it's a number of projects that we're planning this election season. We're also hoping to bring some interesting speakers to campus to engage our students, because it's not just this one way of what we're doing for the world out there. We're also trying to get our students engaged and excited in all of this. I think we're in a period right now where politics and elected leaders have not necessarily given some of our students the greatest hope for why it's important to get involved in the political process or in government. You and I both know that that's absolutely essential. And so we're hoping to engage our students with folks like you and with others to help them understand what the opportunities are and why this life is so exciting when you're involved in the political landscape.
I appreciate your passion and your vision, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So thank you so much for allowing me to not only take on this project, but to just be involved with the school in general.
Oh, Mike, it is our absolute honor and joy to have you along on this path, in this journey.
So you can see, modern-day Orange County is extremely relevant to the future of the rest of the country. Local changes in race and economic class have led to massive shifts in politics and voting patterns. But how did we get to be purple? Once known as Reagan Country and the home of the John Birch Society, how did we move so far away from our conservative roots? Was the end of the Reagan era the end of conservatism? Or was there more at play? We'll talk with longtime Reagan political consultant Stu Spencer and political analyst Dave Wasserman to learn more about what turned this county purple. That's next time on Red County, Blue County, Orange County. You've been listening to Red County, Blue County, Orange County, a podcast series produced by UC Irvine's School of Social Ecology. Thanks to all of our guests for appearing on this podcast to help us dissect what makes Orange County so unique. I'm Mike Madrid, and I invite you to subscribe to this podcast and check out our series at sites, sites.uci.edu/Orange County.